Chapter 4. Me and the White Lady. I had been working at WOL for a couple of months and I was starting to settle into this radio game. Even though I was not at all a player yet, our station would still command enough respect for artists to come through on promotional visits. It was more out of respect to our owner, Kathy Hughes, who carried a big stick in DC. My show was the only new jack type of show on the station. I would play 5% oldies, and the rest of the music would be current hits. I played 8 songs an hour. One would be Strokin' by Clarence Carter, and the rest would be Heavy D, Houdini, or Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper had Tramp out at the time. They came to DC for a week to promote their album. Artists will have a press junket in a town and go from station to station. Salt and Pepper came by WOL early in the week during my show, and I interviewed them. We really hit it off. In the middle of the week, there was some industry party featuring Salt and Pepper. It was one of the rare parties I would attend because I was deep in the throes of cocaine, and I didn't like to be around people when I was getting high. The thing that lured me to the function was Salt and Pepper. I liked the girls and wanted to support them. By the end of the week, Herbie Lovebug Azor, their manager, called me. The girls really like you, he said. Spinderella is leaving to get married, and we all kind of agreed that you would make a great new Spinderella. What do you think? I don't remember it taking me longer than the beat of a heart before I said no thank you. I was very flattered. I was a $9,000 a year jock, and they were $9,000 a year rappers. So my career and their career were on about the same level financially. There was no way I was going to call my parents and say, guess what? I'm joining a rap group. You must be crazy. It was bad enough that I was working in radio. But after 4 years of college, to go off and become a DJ for a rap group, that would have sent them over the edge. Rap music hadn't taken off at that point as far as being a respectable money making vehicle. And they weren't the big Salt and Pepper that they became. They were brand new, and my radio career was brand new. I just could not take a chance on something I really didn't know about. And they knew that I was not a DJ in terms of being able to spin records. But they told me that it was okay, that I would be able to fake it. It was all about the look. At this time, I definitely had the look. I was cocaine Wendy, about 50 pounds thinner than I was in college, model thin. My natural hair was not nearly as big as I wear it today, but it was pretty, long, and a nice texture. And I've always been cute in the face. I was what they were looking for in a new Spinderella. But I also knew that cocaine Wendy wasn't the truth. Once I got myself together and gained that 50 pounds back, the gig would be up. We would be on tour somewhere in Europe, and while on tour, I could see me packing on the pounds, and by the end of the tour they would say, "You're not a good mixer, and you gained all this goddamn weight. Go to hell back home." Salt and Pepper also met rock and roll Wendy, party girl. But I was really still Wendy from Wayside, who liked to be close to home. I knew that Wendy from Wayside was not going to Germany to stand on stage at some big rap concert. That wasn't where my heart is. I am my parents' daughter, and I just knew that was not for me. I don't blame Salt and Pepper for that. I'm just saying the reason it took me only 2 seconds to say thank you so much, but no thank you. I often think today, what would have happened if I'd said yes? Can you see me in that shoot video? No, me neither. Dee Dee Roper was the perfect choice, and I think I made the right choice too. It wasn't but a few months after this offer that I got another that would change my career. The call came on Halloween Eve, 1988. It was from the program director at Hot 103, the man I had begun hounding from the Virgin Islands, and then from DC for the last year, sending him tapes every month and following up with calls. My persistence had finally paid off. "So, do you still want to work in New York?" he said. "Oh boy, golly gee, do I said. Yeah, I think I said those exact words. The call came in around 10 in the evening. Radio was a 24-hour business, so that was not unusual. "We have a situation here, and I need you tomorrow night at midnight," he said. "I'll be there," I said. No hesitation. I was going to be there. The next day, I left very excited about finally making it to New York. The radio station was located in Astoria, Queens. I was very familiar with Manhattan because I used to go there frequently when I was growing up in Ocean Township. But I didn't know very much about the outer boroughs, and my dumbass never bothered to ask. Queens? Okay, how do I get to the station? I knew the address from sending them my air check tapes every month, but knowing the address was absolutely no help. I got out of the Lincoln Tunnel and was lost after that. But I didn't panic. I had my friend, the white lady, traveling with me. Please don't ask me how I had the nerve to drive 200 miles up the New Jersey Turnpike to a brand new job, a dream about to come true with this bitch in the car with me. But I did. While driving on the New Jersey Turnpike with 2 or 3 grams of cocaine in my car was risky, for some reason I didn't think about it twice. I was definitely on my way to becoming an addict, but at this point, I was still pretty much in control of my faculties. Using cocaine didn't make me more outgoing. I was already that. At the time, I thought using it made me deeper. I felt like the white lady made me think deep thoughts. She helped me plan. With her, I felt as though I was always one step ahead of the next person. What my futuristic vision and self imposed exile from society gave me naturally, the white lady took all of that to another level. Being high put me in my own zone. It made me feel as though I had won over on the world. The world saw this goody goody nice girl with the nice upbringing, but inside I was a real badass. Cocaine gave me an edge that I now realize I never needed. Things at that time were about to happen for me that would have already given me that edge. And working in New York, I knew I needed an edge and a whole new image. I started getting my hair professionally weaved. In DC, I wore my natural hair, which was basically in a mild Farrah Fawcett-like do. I fit in with the oldies buppy look. This was a good look for DC Wendy, but New York Wendy needed something a little bit more dramatic. I wanted a look that said, I'm here. I wanted more of what I had. I knew I was only working 1 day a week in New York, but I wanted them to notice me on my one day. I remember the days as an intern on the morning show in Boston when I first learned that my personality and big nails could get me noticed, and I applied the same rules here. I was still working my afternoon shift in DC and doing overnights, midnight Sunday into 5:30 Monday morning. That's the shift where general managers try out new talent. It's the make or break shift. You'll find in any city, whoever is on midnight Sunday into 5:30 on Monday morning is the person generally with the least amount of experience who is either trying to jump off or simply will never jump off and be regulated to that slot for their entire career. If you are a radio head and you hear that job is available at a station and you want to know what they're doing with that job, listen to that overnight shift Sunday into Monday morning. You'll hear someone new every week because they're trying people out for that open spot. That was the shift I was offered. I had to join the union, American Federation of Television and Radio Arts, AFTRA. The scale pay for a shift at that time was $105. I had just gotten a raise in DC from $9,000 to $11,000 a year. Now I was adding to the 100. Now I was adding to the 105 plus whatever money I made on appearances, which was no less than 450 per appearance. I felt like I was moving into the big leagues. I was finally in New York. I was at Hot 103 where the legendary Al Bandero did afternoons and the legendary Freddie Colon did nights. Bandero and Colon? You better recognize. This was big. When I was in college, I used to drive to New York just to listen to New York radio stars like Bandero, Colon, Frankie Crocker, and Carol Ford. I needed to know what they were doing, how they were doing it, and learn from them. Bandero did a weekend shift that led into mine. I would often get to the studio early and sit and talk with him. I was already excited to be talking to him, and the coke I was on made me really talkative. Thinking back, Bandero must have known what was up. Excessive talking. That was a classic sign of being high on coke, and he had been around. I was talking away, all wide eyed, which I am already naturally. Can imagine how bugged out my eyes must have been when I was high. Wide eyed and talkative. I'm sure Bandero enjoyed the company, and I'm also sure he was thinking, this bitch is hot. I was enjoying my jump off though. I was very happy to be working there. I was the only black on the staff, which is one of the reasons why they hired me. They didn't come out and say it, but I knew the deal. I was just black enough to represent black without being a real sister to them. I was black, but I didn't threaten the pH balance of the Debbie Gibsons and the Pretty Poisons and Paula Abduls. I was black the way downtown Julie Brown, who was one of the hottest VJs on MTV at the time, was black. And I didn't mind that at all because downtown Julie Brown was doing okay for herself. I would not have minded following in her footsteps. I would leave DC either Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, or Saturday if I had an appearance on Saturday in New York. And I was always on time. I prepared for anything and everything. One time I left a little later than usual, and when I got to the approach of the Lincoln Tunnel, traffic was backed up and not moving at all. I figured there was an accident inside the tubes. I didn't wait around to find out what the problem was. I parked my car on the side and called AAA to tow it. I got out of my car and I walked through the Lincoln Tunnel. When I got inside, I realized there was indeed an accident, and I acted like my car was part of the accident and just walked right on through. I caught a cab on the other side to the station, and I still wasn't late. I was committed. I understood the importance of being reliable and showing up. So after I did my New York shift, I would turn around, hit the road, and make it to DC in time for my regular shift there. I never missed a shift. Sometimes I would even hang around in the Hot 103 studio after I got off at 5:30. I was still into the wonderment of it all, being in New York, and sometimes I would sit in the jock lounge for 2 hours thinking, wow, I'm here. I would just sit there looking at names on the boxes. Wow, Al Bandero's jock box, Wendy Williams's jock box. Wow, station memos. I would save everything from Hot 103 on it. Oh, I would save everything with Hot 103 on it that would be addressed to staff. I was staff. I was so excited. I would do the appearances on the weekends that the other jocks would turn down. Sometimes 2 hours would turn into 3 hours because of the white lady. I would be back and forth to the bathroom, and then I would just sit there until the high was over so I could have a clean drive home. It was crazy. The drive home took about 5 hours. I would listen to Howard Stern most of the ride. Thank God for syndication. When I crossed that imaginary line from New York into South Jersey, Philly area, Howard would be on, still on the same joke. Then I'd cross into Baltimore area, and there was Howard Stern. He was still on when I reached DC. It was one big thread. And even though my parents lived along my route, I never stopped home. I never called any friends. First of all, my friends only listened to Kiss and WBLS. They were not up on dance music. So I didn't tell any of them about my new job because I was about to make my jump off and I didn't really want anyone coming around with any of their thoughts. And in addition to becoming a potential star, I also had this habit, this secret that very few people knew about. And even though I had met school teachers and all like that who also used, their intake wasn't what mine had become. I used 2 grams a day, 4 days a week. And that habit was getting bigger with each trip down the highway. Sometimes I would catch a nap on the road at the rest stops where I would get some food too. I knew I would have gotten a better meal at my parents' house and definitely a better nap, but I still never stopped. See, they were part of the naysayers. They were the ones thinking, "Oh, this entertainment business, why doesn't she just go and get a real job already?" I figured if you weren't going to be about my struggle, you didn't need to know anything about my struggle. In addition, if you wanted to be always checking my eyes because you thought this whole rock and roll thing was is nothing more than booze, drugs, and sex, then you were going to find what you were looking for, which is that I'm fucked up. I am really fucked up. So I became a turnpike expert. I have stopped at every rest stop along I 95, from Molly Pitcher to the Maryland House. I can tell you which rest stops are the most comfortable, which has the best food and the cleanest restrooms. I can tell you within each stop the best areas to sleep. I can even tell you the best angle to face your car if you go to sleep at 6 in the morning so that the sun is not blazing in your face if you wake up at 9. I even knew what time the cleanup men came around to sweep up cigarette butts. I kept a quilt, a pillow, and a clean pillowcase, and an alarm clock in my car at all times. I had baby shields on the window of my Subaru. And when I got tired, I would stop at a rest stop, set my alarm clock, and get my thing on with the white lady. If there was any left, sometimes my package would be finished by 4 in the morning. And when I got tired, I pulled off and I slept. I didn't have to report to work in DC until 3 in the afternoon, and I could pretty much do that show in my sleep. It wasn't about gossip and sharing insider dirt back then, so I didn't need any preparation. The music was laid out, and I just had to do the breaks and the intros. I would often go in right off the road, unshowered. When I got home at 7:15, I would take my shower and go to bed and get up to work my regular shift the next day at 3. I loved my schedule. A month after working at Hot, the station moved to 1372 Broadway in Manhattan from Astoria, Queens, where The Cosby Show was taping and where sports station WFAN is still today. They moved and changed frequencies to 97.1 to become Hot 97. It was a stronger signal than 103, which means more people could hear them clearly. They were still doing dance music at the time, and I was doing more and more appearances. During these days, the radio station always provided transportation to your appearances, and Hot always did it with style. I would drive into the city to the station, and I would be met by a stretch limo. The limo would take me to the appearance and drop me back off at the station afterwards. I felt like a celebrity myself. For $450, all I had to do was go to some club, get on the mic for a few minutes and say, "Hey, ho, is Brooklyn in the house?" I would hang out for 2 hours in the VIP section drinking champagne and then go home or ego to the next club. I often had 2 appearances a night. In New York City, there are so many clubs and so few jocks to do club appearances. The money was great. I was traveling by limo, drinking champagne, the toast of the party. It was very intoxicating. I wasn't jaded back then. I was wide-eyed and excited. And clubs weren't dangerous at all. They were places to have fun. I was beginning to have a little too much fun. My cocaine habit was getting deeper. My packages for the road were increasing. I had to stockpile for that one night in New York. That was like the longest shift in the world. This routine went on for about 3 months. For about 3 months, I drove up and down the turnpike. Me, Howard Stern, and the white lady, who was beginning to take a more active role in my life. I had been getting high in the studio my whole career. I smoked weed at WRBB in college, smoked weed in St. Croix, dabbled in coke in DC, and now my second month at Hot, I was not only transporting large quantities of cocaine with me on my trips, I was actually getting high in the studio while on air. I even developed a routine. By about 2 in the morning after I settled into my shift, I would take a break. There was a song called Silent Morning by Noel that was 11 minutes long. This gave me plenty of time to go to the ladies' room, take a couple of hits, and be nice and high for a couple of hours. I might take one shorter break later. I tried to save some for my 5-hour drive back to DC. If I was getting high on the road, I would pull off frequently. At this point, I was into cooking cocaine and found my best high came from smoking it out of a stem. You can't really smoke cocaine off a stem and drive at the same time, or at least I hadn't quite mastered the technique. Besides, I wanted to enjoy my high. I couldn't go to rest stops to get high because they were too well lit, and I did not have tinted windows. So I had to go to spots where a lot of people were hanging out and I wouldn't be noticed. I would sit in my car, which was a mess, and smoke. When you get high the way I was getting high, you get sloppy with a lot of things. It was a chore for me to take a shower and feather my hair most days. Clean my car? Please. I wasn't trying to leave my car anywhere to get it tinted because I didn't want folks peeping my sloppiness. And I was too deep in my love affair with the white lady to actually clean it myself. So I had window shields, the baby pull down, and I would pull over, pull down my shades, and take out my shit and my stem, which was about twice the circumference of a straw and half the length. At one end of the stem, I would put a screen in which I used a little cigarette ash to catch some of the moisture, and I would pull my rock right off the spoon with a toothpick. But in the screen, put it in the screen and be on my way. And I knew how to whip it up so that it would be a nice chunk too. My boyfriend in college introduced me to cooking it. He would do it for me when we smoked cocaine, which was very rare. But Andre, my dealer in DC, made me an expert. I never smoked in the studio, even though I could because hardly no one was in at that hour. Cooked cocaine had a distinct smell. I never wanted it wafting into the hallway, giving me away. My routine was always to put on the Noel extended play record and do my thing. Come back and work out my shift, high as a kite. On one particular night, I put on Noel, went to the ladies' room, which was always empty because I was the only lady there during the midnight to 5:30 shift. I got my spoon and lighter, stem and screen together, cooked my package, and took a hit. I don't know whether the pull was too strong or whether the shit was just that pure, but it hit the back of my head like a sledgehammer, and I passed the fuck out. I fell down. I must have fallen forward onto the heating register on the wall because when I came to, it and me were on the floor. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. How long have I been on this floor? And what the fuck is the heating register doing on the floor next to me? Those were the only thoughts running through my head as I lay on the floor of the bathroom. When I finally got up and back into the studio, the phones were ringing off the hook and there was dead air. That Noel song had long played out and there was nothing in the studio but silence. The station had dead air for more than 3 minutes while I was unconscious. The radio, dead air for even seconds could get you fired. So 3 minutes of dead air? Well, I got up and went back into the studio and there was no caller ID back then, so I couldn't tell who was calling. I was hoping it wasn't any of my bosses. A lot of listeners were calling and asking what happened. I told them that I had to go to the bathroom, that I had taken a whole lot of Correctol. You can't believe what that mess did to me, I told everyone who called me. And they don't leave up and they don't leave me up here with anyone who to press the next song. Sorry. It was believable. Believable enough that if any of the bosses called, they would have gotten the same story. Other jocks had been complaining about the station getting an instant fire cart machine. So when one song ends, the next one plays automatically. But what the bosses always felt about that was that it would make the jocks lazy. You would be able to walk out of the studio and have the show run itself, and they were right to a degree. But if I had an instant fire cart machine, no one would have been the wiser. With each call I took, I kept an eye on the hotline, a direct line used by the bosses into the studio. I was nervous, waiting for it to ring. I waited 15 minutes and there was no hotline call. I waited 30 minutes, no hotline call. I was in the clear. I had gotten away with it. And instead of the close call making me want to stop, getting away with it gave me even more courage to continue. For me, it wasn't about getting high. The excitement and the pleasure came from the process of getting high. If I could just take a pill and experience the high of being on cocaine, I wouldn't be interested in getting high. I enjoyed the process of bringing the straw to my nose. I enjoyed the process of breaking the rocks, cooking it up on a spoon, and getting that first pull. I'm sure it's that way with weed smokers. The process of clearing the seeds, splitting the cigar to make a blunt, or rolling a joint is just as much a part of the high as smoking the weed itself. Somehow, in the midst of all this cocaine use, I got offered a full-time job at Hot, working the overnight shift Monday through Friday, and I had to make a decision to leave DC. I had a problem. How would I get my coke? Yes, that was a bigger problem than quitting my job in DC and taking this new job, which was paying AFTRA wages in the ballpark of 40,000 a year. I knew I couldn't drive down to DC to get enough to last me until I could drive down again. Hell, if I did that, I might as well be trafficking drugs. During one of my appearances for Hot, I met a security guard at one of the clubs who also did work for the station. He was hitting on me. I wasn't feeling him in that way, but we struck up a conversation. While he didn't pursue the pickup, he must have seen something in my eyes because somehow the conversation got around to cocaine. He let me know he could get me whatever I needed. He did security at Hot and also had a drug business on Jerome Avenue in the Bronx. He said he would make house calls to the station whenever I needed it. My new dealer would make food runs for me during my shift. He'd come back with a bag of McDonald's. Hot Mickey D's fries would be on top, and my little white package would be lying low on the bottom of the bag. I would usually give the fries away because I had absolutely no interest in eating. Just as mouths water at the smell of hot McDonald's fries, my mouth watered at the thought of what was under those fries. When he would show up with that bag, my jaw would start to wind, and for some reason, I would have to go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement immediately. This feeling would be consistent until I quit the habit. This reaction would take over. After my bowel movement, I had to have a hit. I was a full-blown addict with the dealer who made deliveries. It had been 6 months of driving back and forth from DC to New York, and that was finally going to end. When I got back to DC after the job offer, I typed up my letter of resignation, giving WOL 2 weeks' notice. I gave it to my boss at the time, Diana Williams. That was the proper and professional way, I thought, to handle it. Diana Williams told me, don't bother with the 2 weeks' notice. She basically told me to get the fuck out right then. She was very nasty, and I was a little hurt. I had been a consummate professional my entire time in DC. I never missed a shift, and I represented the station well, as far as they know. The way Diana Williams handled that situation was very typical of the business. Sad to say, I soon got over my hurt. I was in the Big Apple. I was single, no kids, making more than $40,000 a year, plus $450 for every appearance. I had no student loans, no car loans, and I had my cocaine. Life was perfect.